You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What in the world just happened? No Nas, no DDV, but the Wolves find a way to survive. Double OT. Oh, and 61 from Jokic, too, by the way. Final score in Denver, 140-139. What's going on? Back in the lab, back at it. Another T-Wolves POSTCAST episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. Your team every day. Jack Borman with me, as always. Give him a follow, at JRBorman13. Jack, bro, I'm still sweating, man. Can you ever remember back-to-back regular season games like the Wolves just played in? I can't. The Pistons melee, Royal Rumble comeback victory, and now this.
Yeah, I completely forgot about the Royal Rumble until you said that. I was like, damn, what is the last game? Because my brain is just such a mess
like a while ago now. Yeah.
After watching.
We basically just played 2 games in one night, so.
Yeah, I mean, just an all-timer. Mile high. Crazy that they did this at altitude too. You think about how many guys played the majority of the third quarter, the entire fourth quarter, all of the first overtime, all the second overtime. But yeah, it was just so fitting that this game came down to a play involving Russell Westbrook and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, because that was one of the big battles within the game that the Wolves really came away victorious with. That obviously had a huge impact on the scoreboard.
Lots to get into after that one. Tonight's game MVP, the biggest turning point as well, plus the Wolves playoff picture now with just 6 regular season games to go. But first, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Game Time. Game Time, download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. All right, I said after last game, that was Sunday night, that Pistons game should go down as one of top 3 at least, right? One of the most memorable games of the year for the Wolves. 48 hours later, this just happened, right? T-Wolves down 16 in a blink of an eye. Don't get up and go to the bathroom. Come back, you say, what just happened? Down 16. They rally all the way back, though. 12 ties in this game. 20 lead changes, 2 overtime periods, 61 from Joker, 34 from Ant, a playoff seeding on the line, only 5 games left in the regular season. Wolves had not 1 but 2 chances to win this thing, by the way, at the end of regulation and the end of the first overtime. But they find a way, Jack. Never a doubt, man. Never a doubt. Big picture, I guess. Let's start with this. Big picture. In a game that had such serious playoff vibes, right? We're on TNT. You got Kevin Harlan on the mic. Being down not 1 but 2 of your better players in DDV and Nas. What does a win like this mean for this team now moving forward so close to the playoffs?
Yeah, it's absolutely ginormous considering that the Warriors beat the Grizzlies tonight, and the Warriors are now the 5 seed. Memphis has lost 8 of their last 10 games, so they are now tied with the Timberwolves in the standings in terms of the kind of games back calculation. But Memphis is 2-0 against the Timberwolves this season, so they'll have the tiebreaker regardless of the outcome of next Thursday night's game. Another one on TNT. Not this coming Thursday, but the following Thursday to close out this 5-game road trip. It's absolutely massive considering that the Clippers are continuing to play really, really well. The Warriors are continuing to play really, really well. It just feels like it's all kind of trending towards Minnesota, Golden State in that 6 and 5 spots, with the Grizzlies maybe falling into that 7-8 play-in line. Just with how bad the vibes have been there. Obviously the coaching change, and key guys just not playing the way they need to, and kind of thinning out their bench too. So another important big picture note, Anthony Edwards does not have that wrap and cast on his hand anymore. John Krasinski reported during the game tonight that he had stitches in his right hand. Again, would be great to know what the heck happened to his hand. But that's been totally swept under the rug. So had stitches that came out on Sunday, so he's got to be feeling better, and certainly proved that in the final quarter and 2 overtime periods.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Jack, tonight's game MVP, who was it and why?
Yeah, like I alluded to off top, I think it's got to go to Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and the reason for that is, again, in the last, ironically, in the last show that we did on, whatever Sunday night, we talked about Karl Anthony Towns in Game 7 in this building in Ball Arena in Denver, needing to just kind of keep the boat afloat until his teammates join the party, and that was certainly what happened. With Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I mean, go way back to the first half. The Timberwolves starters had 5 points in the first 6 minutes. Then Jalen Clark and Nickeil Alexander-Walker check in, and the two of them score 5 points in the first minute that they're in the game. It was just like an immediate tone shift from those two guys that took this from very quickly becoming an 18, 20, 22 point Nuggets lead to the Timberwolves just all of a sudden being down 6 before the quarter was over. And that was just a monumental effort from Nickeil, and he just kept pouring it on in that second quarter too. And Chris Finch, couldn't stop playing Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He played the final 18 minutes of that first half. He had what I thought was his best half of the year. He had 13 points, made 3 threes, 5 boards, 5 assists, 2 blocks, and was plus 15 in 18 first half minutes. And then what does he do? He probably trumps it with an even better second half in overtime periods and finishes this game with 26 points, 8 assists, only 1 turnover, 7 boards, made 5 threes, was plus 14 in 45 minutes. And again, played 2 18-minute stretches, which is absolutely insane in this game. And not only was that second 18-minute stretch, an 18-minute stretch to close regulation, but he then played the entirety of both overtime periods too. So played the final 28 minutes of this game, played awesome defense on Russell Westbrook. And also too, I thought that Nickeil Alexander-Walker was super competitive in the times when he got switched on to Nikola Jokic, which was, super important as well. Jokic, took 4 shots. They were all threes against Nickeil, which I think speaks to, Nickeil kind of getting up into him and not letting him get past him too, which is something that is super important. And yeah, I think that, holding Russell Westbrook to 1 of 4 shooting in the time that he was matched up with Russ was fantastic because, Russ can get downhill and, make problems for you at the rim, even though, he's surely a shell of what he used to be. But and then obviously, you can't talk enough about, some of the clutch shots that he had in the fourth quarter and the first overtime and the second overtime, and then stepping to the line calmly. You could get, really tight and maybe miss that first one. Yeah. And then all these thoughts start rushing through your head, especially when you have, felt like 5 minutes of real life time to think about those free throws, and calmly just steps to the line and makes the first 2. And just has a pretty euphoric reaction to knocking both of those down, which was super important. And I think Nickeil deserves a world of credit, and really cool for Nickeil in a contract year to have a game like that on national TV, a ton of people watching, might be the game of the year in the NBA, to have that type of performance. And you were texting me too, down the stretch of this game, like, we got to see Nickeil Alexander-Walker's stats versus the Nuggets.
Versus the Nuggets.
Yeah, like I don't have them because I feel like you could just rip up any notes you had because of how back and forth this game was. But he just turns into like prime Kyrie against the Nuggets with elite defense, and it's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Plenty more deep dive from this one. I want to get into the biggest turning point, plus a little bit more deep dive on some crazy stats from this double OT game. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Right now, FanDuel is giving you a chance at a huge return, $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you hit your first $5 wager. Why I love FanDuel? When you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can go check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. Again, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 bet. Go check it all out over at FanDuel.com. Get in some NBA future action while you're there. 6 games left in the regular season. Nas Reed 6 Man of the Year odds still sitting at 4-1. All sitting up over at FanDuel.com. Again, check it all out over at FanDuel.com and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Boy, I don't know where you go with this one here, but turning point of the game tonight, Jack. Where and when? This one, I'm interested which direction you go, because this one's tough.
Yeah, I had 2 ready for you, so I'll give both of them to you for one for a win, one for a loss. Yeah, I thought at the start of the fourth quarter was the worst coaching decision that Chris Finch has made all season. I mean, people who have been here almost every single night with us know that I have largely been very pro Chris Finch, and that does not change. But I'm certainly willing to criticize what I see are really poor decisions. And at the start of the fourth quarter, you do not have Dante DiVincenzo and Nas Reed because they're suspended, 2 guys who normally play the start of the fourth quarter. And it's worth noting that Nikola Jokic's substitution pattern is like exactly what Anthony Edwards is generally. So, plays the entire first quarter, sits the first 5 minutes of the second quarter, and then does the same thing in the second half. But Jokic stays out there to start the fourth quarter because Michael Malone senses like, hey, we really need this game to try to keep pace with the Rockets, stay ahead of the Lakers in the chase for the 2 and 3 seeds. And Chris Finch keeps Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards on the bench to start the fourth quarter. And what happened? A very predictable 7-0 Nuggets run. Jokic created all 7 of the points, had 4 of his own, created a 3 for, I believe, Aaron Gordon. And then that became a 12-0 run and put the Nuggets, or 12-0 run and then a 16-2 run. So the Nuggets got up 9, which was, felt like kind of it was curtains. And at that point, I was looking up the stats of, how different Anthony Edwards and Nikola Jokic had played to that point, because it totally felt like Jokic was doing whatever he wanted to, and Ant was just completely checked out and just seemed super resigned to just be passive and try to let his teammates do all the work and win on the backside. And at some point, Ant just needed to impose his will on the game. And that was kind of my other turning point here, was when Ant checked back in that fourth quarter, he just kind of decided, to hell with it. I'm going to start going downhill. And that's exactly what happened. So Ant really started to, instead of trying to move off the ball and get it back, he just decided to go east-west and beat the double teams that he was seeing up top in the pick and roll game that way. And it was doing a great job too of, passing it to his release valve, whether it be Julius Randle or Jaden McDaniels, Mike Conley, whoever it was. And then those guys did a really good job of kind of flowing Ant into dribble handoffs or, setting screens that, helped kind of give Ant a runway that he wasn't seeing early on in the game. And then, he did a great job to his credit of finishing some really tough shots inside when he certainly needed to. And he just totally put the Timberwolves on his back and led the Timberwolves on a 22-8 run from the 6:43 mark to the 2:56 mark of the fourth quarter. They went from down 11 to up 3. And what I really liked about that was that, it initially started as a 14-6 run, and all 3 of the Timberwolves stars kind of had a rhythm at the same time. Ant had 5, Julius had 5, and Rudy had 4 of those 14 points. And Ant, what was really nice to see was Ant accounted for 11 of those 14 points and had 3 assists in that time span too. Had a really nice assist to Rudy Gobert that resulted in a huge dunk when the defense overcommitted to him. So, and one other thing that I want to call out as well, might kind of go underrated, but Mike Conley had an absolutely ginormous 3 with about 7.5 minutes to go, where it felt like the Wolves were about to totally just let go of the rope and lose control of this game, and hit a big time 3 to cut the lead to 6 with 7:30 left, and knowing that Ant was back in.
get some air. That three
Totally.
just gave them like somebody throw me a life raft. I'm drowned out here. This thing is going to swing in the wrong direction. And that three just made them, again, give them just a second chance at life, it felt like. Keep going.
Yeah, for sure. And what was really important to note too, was, I just think that Julius Randle and Ant had that kind of two-man game going, in which it was a little bit of your turn, my turn, just because the Nuggets were double teaming Ant up top in that pick and roll game. But it really did feel like, Julius Randle, for the most part, in single coverage, especially when he was going against Jokic, was getting whatever he want. And I tweeted this out, and I mean this in the most complimentary way possible. But there are so few guys who are psychotic enough to think and then actually be successful at pushing Nikola Jokic off his spot on the drive and then being able to finish inside. And for Julius Randle to be able to do that in the fourth quarter of this game, when Jokic was given everything he had. I mean, that was one of the greatest individual performances in the history of the league. I think it's only the third time ever that we've seen a 60-point triple-double from Jokic. He set a new career high with 61 points, most in a game this season. There have only been 2 60-point games. Timberwolves fans in the chat, I'll give you a little bit of time here to try to think about who the other one was. But yeah, I mean, for him to be able to do that and kind of drain some of Jokic's energy on that end of the floor, and then, also had 5 fouls for the majority of the end of the fourth quarter and into the first overtime, and the way that he was able to play defense on Jokic after Rudy Gobert fouled out deserved a ton of credit. So the way that those two guys really fed off of each other, but all started by Ant getting downhill was awesome to see.
100%. Rudy Gobert fouled out in the first overtime, but how good was he again in back-to-back games? 19 points, 12 boards to follow up his 17 points and 25 boards versus the Pistons. Plus, Randle and Jokic both stuck on 5 fouls for not one but both overtimes as well. So many elements to this one. What other elements, I guess, to this one made just every possession so much more amplified? And any, other just kind of quick deep dive crazy stats or numbers that are really sticking out when you scan the team stats in the box score right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the history with these two teams. I think when you think about Anthony Edwards and Nikola Jokic, between their international games, they've played 5 or 6 times on the international circuits, between the FIBA World Cup, the Olympics, Olympic qualifying, in the same division. They've played in a series twice in a row. I think those two guys just have such a mutual respect for one another and just love competing against one another. And I think they love beating each other. That certainly adds to it. And then in terms of team stats, I mean, Jeff has it right there for what I was looking at the most. I mean, it's very rare that you take 25 more shots than your opponent does, but that's an area that Denver has struggled in this year. And I thought the Timberwolves did a really good job for the majority of the night, kind of twisting the knife in some of the Nuggets, susceptible areas, pain points. They had 21 offensive rebounds for 22 second chance points. That was a huge reason why they obviously won that field goal attempt disparity by 25. The Nuggets have been, bottom 7 in the league in that stat this year. They average, in that disparity, minus 2.8 per game. Obviously a little bit different story tonight. And then the 3-point line, right? Denver, I believe, this season makes the fewest amount of threes per game in the NBA. They make the third fewest, but they attempt the least amount of threes in the NBA this season. And the 3-point line was huge in this game that overcame a lot of the Timberwolves' shortcomings, especially in fast break points. They allowed a season high 36 fast break points. But through a quarter and a half of this game, the Nuggets had the same amount of fast break points as they had half court points. They had 21 half break points, and they had 21 fast break points and 21 points in the half court, which was pretty nuts. And then, they won 19-12 on the 3-point line in terms of makes, which was absolutely ginormous to get that in a huge spot tonight. And then again, for the Wolves to keep it close in the points in the paint battle, that's normally something that Denver does really well. They score the most points in the paint in the NBA this season. But the Timberwolves did a good job attacking Nikola Jokic for the majority of this game. And I know there was a comment that was saying, how could they not go at Jokic when he had 5 fouls?
Yeah.
And the reason why it was tough for them to go at Jokic when he had 5 fouls is because he was up there double teaming Anthony Edwards every single time. And so there wasn't really a one-on-one matchup that you had a ton once he had 5 fouls. But I think those 3 areas were obviously super important. And then the last one for me was bench points, right? Nikhil obviously, outscored the Nuggets bench 26-14 by himself, but Josh Minott was super impactful in his 12 minutes. He had 10 points off the bench and what was definitely his best game of the year. And the Wolves outscored Denver 40-14 without, probably their 2 best bench players, which is definitely impressive.
Those are some crazy stats, Shaq. I got the craziest stat of the night, though, right here. 6 minutes ago, Jeff says 239 sickos in the chat right now. 7 minutes later, we got 314 of you sickos in the chat right now at nearly 1 a.m., going from a Tuesday night to a Wednesday morning. 1 segment left. Stick with us. Plenty more deep dive. I guess we got to talk about this Nets game coming up as well, plus what we'll be talking about, water cooler talk tomorrow morning. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode also brought to us by BetterHelp. When your schedule gets packed with work project, kids, whatever it may be, it's so easy to let your priorities start to slip, even when we know what makes us happy. But when you feel like you got no time for yourself, the non-negotiables like therapy, they become more important than ever. If you've been thinking about starting therapy, maybe it's time to give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, and it's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited for your schedule. It's so simple. All you got to do, you fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched up with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Go visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today. You're getting 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, Brooklyn Nets, they're up next Thursday night, 6:30 p.m. tip. I don't know how you follow these back-to-back games we've just had Sunday night and tonight, what we just witnessed. But game 2 of this 5-game road trip, 5 straight games on the road. Confidence level for that one, and what's it all look like, I guess, getting Nas and DDV back. Going to be nice to have 2 pair of fresh legs, I guess. And I was worried, you heard me say it, I was worried coming into this game about a hangover after such a dramatic, emotional game and win versus the Pistons. Now just how worried should we be about maybe running on fumes now with, again, 4 more straight road games to go?
Yeah, I think it's hilarious that we're even talking about this next game after what we just watched.
It feels dirty. It doesn't feel right.
No, it doesn't. But yeah, I think, the Nets are in a spot now where I know they've won each of their last 2 games, but they are not in contention really for the final play-in spot in the Eastern Conference. And so they're pretty aggressively tanking. They've been sitting out guys like D'Lo and Cam Johnson, who have been kind of mainstays for them the second half of the season. And then Cam Thomas, their leading scorer, is out for the season. So definitely a game where the Timberwolves are just playing themselves here. I think if Anthony Edwards wants the Timberwolves to win this game, he will win this game. And that's what we saw tonight from Ant. I mean, Anthony Edwards had 34 points, 10 rebounds, 10 rebounds and 8 assists. And he was like awful for 3/4 of this game. And he still finished with that stat line because he showed up and cared when it mattered. And I think, again, he's just got to bring that same level of intensity to this game. Same goes for Julius Randle, and the same goes for Rudy Gobert. And I know Rudy fouled out of this game and is probably lower on the totem pole in terms of, line items that we're talking about in this game, but he was tremendous this game. And if he keeps playing with the same, force that we've been talking about these last 3 or 4 games, they're going to be just fine. I think it'll be a good battle between him and Nick Claxton, 2 guys who play a very similar game on the interior. If Nick Claxton is out there and ready to go, but I assume too, you'll see, if Dante DiVincenzo and Naz Reid bring the same level of juice that they brought against the Pistons on Sunday, and then you're able to maybe get some leftover Nikhil magic from tonight. I think this Timberwolves team could maybe just have a night where they win a game that they're really supposed to by maybe 25 or 30 points. Because man, I really do not have it in me after watching this game tonight to be coming on here talking on Thursday night about a really bad loss at a really bad time.
Let's not go there. Searching for Jerry Garcia. Love the name. Fun fact, De'Aaron Fox and Jokic are the only players this season to drop 60 points and both lost to the Wolves. I know somebody else commented that as well. Yeah, there you go.
Do you remember how that game ended?
2024. Remind us, please. Remind us.
Julius Randle buzzer beater to win that game, I think.
Ooh.
Or was that against the Suns? No, that was against the Suns. I was going to
say he had an opportunity tonight to do that as well. Took a little bit of heat, by the way, from the play-by-play guy. I'm sorry, not the play-by-play, the color guy, not Kevin Harlan, the color guy, saying 4 seconds left. Hey, let's talk about that real quick because I see a lot of comments. Just the struggles at the end, last possession. First, we've talked about before. Ant still yet to hit a game-winning shot in his career. Don't know how that's possible, but for me, it's just like, okay, you got 13 seconds on the clock, last possession, chance to tie it or win it. The dancing around, the lack of hustle, I guess, or urgency, maybe a better word. All of a sudden, you're just chewing up. 13 seconds turns into 6 or 7 real quick. But just your quick, processing the way you think about the way Finch dials up. Because I know you speak highly of Finch all the time. I know he's a great coach, X's and O's guy. But it feels like they do struggle when they have the last shot at the end of games.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, frankly, is Anthony Edwards. I think Anthony Edwards just kind of has this, I don't know. It's just like he just gets so consumed by the moment in a sense of he wants to be the guy and he wants it so bad for his teammates that he kind of loses sight of what maybe is drawn up or what he needs to do. And the comment there about how drives into doubles all the time is totally true. And then he'll get rid of the ball a little bit too late. But I think the problem that I had, I really liked the fact that Chris Finch had the Wolves use the entirety of the court. So you have an option there on the timeout to use the full court or advance the ball. And
if you
Finch
got enough time to do it, yes, absolutely.
For sure. And I think, look, the good news is that the Timberwolves took the last shot in both the end of regulation and the end of the first overtime. They didn't turn it over, which is something we've seen a lot at the end of quarters.
I feel like that's such a low bar that we're asking for. What did I text you? Remember? What did I said, can we just get a clean possession here and a clean look? I don't even care if they make it because that's how low the bar has been, I feel like.
For sure. And I think, for the Wolves too, it would have been so nice. Ant and Julius were so good driving down the stretch of that game. And then both of them had opportunities to do it. Ant had an opportunity to do it at the end of the first overtime. Julius had an opportunity to do it Ant had an opportunity to do it at the end of the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Julius had an opportunity to do it at the end of first overtime, and just didn't do it. So, and then what does Julius Randle do right at the start of the second overtime? Drives and kicks and creates a wide open Mike Conley corner three. So it's where was that when the Wolves really needed it?
There.
But
yeah.
So I would say it's honestly less on Finch in those moments and more on
execution.
The players in the sense, but I will say Finch also has an opportunity to just grab a guy by his face and say dude, I love you to death.
I hope Finch doesn't say all that or do all that, I guess, in that fashion as well. But keep going. No, because I'm very interested in this conversation. Yeah.
No, so he has an opportunity to grab a guy by his face and just be I love you with all my heart, but I really need you to just drive. Just drive. Yeah. Just drive. And maybe he's not hammering that point home well enough in these huddles, but I do. But again, I do think it was nice and that the defense wasn't able to get his set using the full length of the court. And then the second one, you got to give Ant some credit in that he got off the ball and made a good play, right?
Yeah.
But the execution behind it just wasn't there.
We've talked about after a lot of really good games, Phoenix was a great game. By the way, Wolves winners of 3 in a row started with the Phoenix dub 3 games ago. What matchup do you want to see as just an NBA fan, somebody who just wants the most entertaining basketball matchup? And what matchup in the first round do you want to see for the Wolves as far as just X's and O's advantage goes to the T-Wolves.
Can you repeat that one more time? I apologize.
Well, I was just going to say, like, first round matchup. Which team do you think the Wolves match up the best with? Who should we be hoping for when we look at these standings every night, every morning? We're checking the box scores. Who should we be kind of rooting for, or against, I should say, that you think the Wolves match up the best against in round one?
Yeah, I personally think that the Timberwolves should really be hoping that they see this Nuggets team in round one. I mean, they've already beat them once. They beat them 6 times. I mean, they beat them 6 times in a row. Dating back to Game 6 of the playoffs last year. This Timberwolves team has zero fear of the Nuggets, and I think they've got a lot of confidence. I think the Nuggets or the Wolves are just a really bad matchup for the Wolves, and the Timberwolves too have proven that they can win in Denver at altitude, and that's supposed to be a huge advantage for them. And I know that the regular season is not the same thing exactly, but they've proven they can do it in both the regular season and the playoffs. And the Nuggets have no real backup bigs. They have no real backup 4 either. And Jaden McDaniels has dominated Michael Porter Jr. in that matchup. And Anthony Edwards has done an excellent job defensively against Jamal Murray. And the Nuggets have proven time and time again that when the game comes down to it, they just don't have anybody that can guard Anthony Edwards straight up. And then, to Julius Randle's credit, he's totally stepped into Karl Anthony Towns' shoes and been in that spot where hey, man, you're going to have the opportunity to play really well and have a good matchup that you can feast on and score and kind of put the team on your shoulders offensively when Ant's getting hard doubled and they're trying to take the ball out of his hands. And he's done a great job. And then the guys on the kind of the outskirts of the kind of scoring, whether it's Nikhil or Mike, have been great. And Nas was been awesome in some of these moments against the Nuggets too. So I think you'd certainly be hoping for that. I think worst case scenario would be a 3-6 matchup with the Lakers, just because I think having to go against 2 of the greatest playmakers to ever touch a basketball with a third banana in Austin Reeves, who's amazing. I think I think the Lakers would have 3 of the 4 best players in that series, and the Wolves may have, 7 of the best 11 or 7 of the best 12, but that's certainly a nightmare matchup for me. And obviously I don't think you'd really be inviting a 1-8 Oklahoma City matchup either, even though the Wolves have had some success against that team this year. I still think that the way they play is just not not fun to go against in a playoff setting. So I think you'd be hoping for either Houston or Denver in that, whether it's 2-7 or 3-6, however it ends up shaking out.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Last one, then we'll get the kids to bed here. What's the water cooler talk tomorrow at work after this one? Just, again, back-to-back, just insane games. Game of the year tonight, double OT. How we feeling? Yeah,
I think, you got to be feeling pretty good about the fact that the Wolves just, find a way to keep gutting these games out, man. And I think too how fun it's been to see the Wolves and the Nuggets just kind of go up against it, and that these two teams, when the game really, really matters in the playoffs, it's been so much fun that these games have just come down to the wire. And I think the other part of it too is that this was Anthony Edwards' best clutch time performance of this season by far. And had 10 points going into the fourth quarter, and he finished this game, what did I say, with 34 points. So he had 24 of his 34 points in the final 22 minutes. When you really needed Anthony Edwards to step up, he surely stepped up. And that's the type of playoff riser that we've really come to know in Anthony Edwards. And I think as we kind of are creeping towards that, it's kind of just like that, high that you get from watching him play in those types of moments. I know. And I think you have to separate what we've seen from him in the regular season, because the sample size that we've seen from him in the playoffs is quite large now at this point for someone his age. And I think you've got to trust the playoff sample. And when he is totally locked in and, in a spot where, he's just got all this confidence flowing through him in a playoff series, you just got to like your chances whenever that guy is your go-to guy. And I think that, again, like all of his teammates trust him a ton. But what I think is really cool about Anthony Edwards is that he trusts his teammates just as much, if not more, than they trust him. And the way that he lifts them up and empowers them, both the way he talks, the way he carries himself, the way he plays, how he'll always believe in them in important moments, passing them the ball. Like, I do think that is that is super important and something that is super valuable and a huge reason why all these guys really have come to love Anthony Edwards inside that locker room beyond all of the other things with his personality that that we all love. So I just think it's a moment where you're like, man, I am so tired today, but I'm so glad that I watched that game and got to witness some pretty special stuff from that guy.
Well, can you imagine being on the other side? We got to stay up this late. We got to talk about everything that led to a double OT loss. I mean, fun when you win, Jack. Like any sport, you can always say fun when you win. T-Wolves survived double OT 61 from Jokic. They sweep Denver this year. They've won 6 straight versus them dating back to last season. 44-32 now on the year. First time all year they've been 12 games above 500. As always, you guys are nuts. We love you guys. Huge shout out to all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. All you guys coming in the chat with us from game to game. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Go follow Jack at Borman13 live from the Target Center. More games than not. Nets, that's on Thursday, 6:30 p.m. tip. We'll catch you right here. Same time, same place. But until then, signing out.